was a maintenance man, and he was always, that's the brand that he always bought because it works and keeps on working.
Right.
I wonder if that's going to be around in the supply chain.
Our company uses mostly DeWalt, but they buy a, if there's a way better tool from a different company, we still buy it. But like, if you see our trucks, they're almost all DeWalt tools.
That's all Keith has. It's just DeWalt.
Yeah.
Those are good too.
DeWalt or DeWalt?
DeWalt.
DeWalt.
Okay.
DeWalt.
All right, everybody, we're back. Thank you for joining us yet again for the Q&A part. Let's pray in, and then we'll get started. Heavenly Father, thank you very much, Abba, for this opportunity to study together with our brothers and sisters and to be in your word, your living word, through the sacrifice that your son, of your son for us, allowing us to approach you and to be with you and be your sons and daughters. And we just ask for your insight, your understanding, and your eyes and ears to be able to see your written word and hear what it is that everybody is learning from this and sharing with one another, that we can all grow together. And we thank you for that. In Jesus Yeshua's name, amen. All right. So, howdy, everybody. We're glad you're here. And we're going to go all the way back, Exodus 6, where we started today. And we've been having technical difficulties this morning. My computer froze up. Lynn's froze up. Dee was having issues. So I think it's probably something with the StreamYard. Maybe not, but we can't tell. At any rate, let's go back to, look, Gwen just disappeared. Okay. Anyways, going back to Exodus chapter 6, I have something pretty early in verse 6. If anybody's got something before that, speak up.
I had something in 3.
Okay.
I don't know that I ever noticed before. It said, I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob as God Almighty. But my name is Yehovah. That's how it's spelled out. So he's revealing his name to Moses.
It had not been revealed before that.
Huh?
I don't believe it had been revealed before that.
That's the first time I noticed that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So.
Oh, I have this restored names version, and 6:3 says, "And I appeared to Abraham, to Yitzhak, and to Jacob as Almighty. And by my name, Yahuwah, was I not known to them." So he's just telling them they're another one of his names. I think there. Because they just known him as the Almighty One,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, so is Yahuwah or the Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, is that his actual name? Or is that another descriptor? I'm asking. What's your thought?
I think each one of his names is a descriptor of his character. Like, well, I don't know, if you break up Yahuwah, if you break up the name, Yah, that would be like the word. You know what I mean? I'm just putting that out there. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there.
I heard that Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh is like behold the hand, behold the nail. Like each
right.
I was just watching this guy like this last 2 weeks or something. That guy Jim I was telling you about, John. Was dissecting, like there's modern Hebrew, there's Paleo Hebrew, and then there's like the Hebrew that was before the Paleo Hebrew. And there is a, like when he was talking about the Exodus scripture where he says, I am that I am, but before that, he says something. And there's a particular descriptor that it wasn't the I am that this man was studying. He was studying the thing that was just before that. I can't remember. It's horrible that I do this, but I think that you're kind of right, like Lynn, that it's a descriptor of his character. But I think that there's like I am. Like let's say it's I am. He is all those things. Like when I said to a friend the other day, like Yeshua is mercy. And what does mercy look like? Blood and bruised and bleeding and dying. That's what mercy looks like. So I think it's like all of it, but it can never be just one name. So then the I am isn't his name. It's like, tell him that I am. Like who sent me? What's your name? I am. You know, I think it's another descriptor of the all-encompassing something that we can't comprehend.
Right.
So
when he said I am, he told to tell Moses to say that. Had he referred to himself as I am previous to them so that they would know? Did I miss it in Genesis?
Well, when he's at the burning bush, right? This is when Moses is at the burning bush and he meets Abba for the first time. What does he say there?
Right, he said it to Moses, but she's asking, I think, had he revealed it to the rest of them? Which that's an interesting question. I don't know. It might have meant something.
That's what he then told Moses to tell the children of Israel who sent them. So is there a reference to I am that they would know who that was? And that's why he said, tell them that.
Like, how did they know him before that? Like, how did they?
Right.
Eloah. 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 Like Elohim, that they just knew him as Aloha. As Eloah. Let me see what this one says.
Oh, Jasmine. I think about that sometimes, and I think I would be afraid. You know, like sort of like when people say like it'd be different if Yeshua was walking now. No, I'd be one of those schmucks. I'm sure of it. Like, you know, but yeah, I don't know. Sometimes some of us like learn one time, so maybe it would only take one time for Ava to speak, and then I'd be a good girl for the rest of my life. So
okay, so verse 6, right? Wherefore say unto the children of Israel, I am the Lord, and I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians, right? And I will rid you of their bondage, and I will redeem you with a stretched out arm and with great judgments. And I will take for you, let's see, I will take you to me for a people, and I will be to you a God, and you shall know that I am the Lord your God, which bringeth you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. Okay, now just reading that, it is, you could say it today as the out from under the Egyptians, which are putting you under burdens. But if you refer this back to, and this is something that I had noticed recently with us just reading through it, back to Genesis 47, 9 and 20. That is when the money failed, right? Remember when the Egyptians came to Joseph and they said, we can't even buy anything anymore. Put us into, let us serve Pharaoh. Let us serve Pharaoh. He already has our land. He already has our cattle, right? So the Egyptians, and so now I'm reading this as the bondage of the Egyptians. Somehow Israel, right, the tribes ended up in that same position where they were serving Pharaoh. Whereas before they hadn't. They were just rescued out of famine and starving to death. So it's been a long.
It was all a trick, though. Not a trick. Well, I mean, it was all a ploy because ultimately, when Joseph was getting them to sell their land, and then pretty soon they didn't own any land. Pretty soon Egypt owned all their land. So yes, his technique to save all the people during the 7 years of famine was, really, really smart, but it doesn't mean that in the long run it was good, because look at the payoff now, right? And then I was thinking too, like how, when he says like, let us go, we have to leave here so that we can worship our God. We have to leave here so that we can obey. Remember we were talking about this the other day, about how that it's hard for us to really be free when we're still under the yoke of Pharaoh. It's hard for us to fully obey and comply with Abba's expectations for his people while we're still under bondage. So
Exactly. How often do we hear that, right? Oh, I'd love to come to your little Bible study, but I have bills to pay.
Right.
Right?
Or-
I would love to come and fellowship with you, but I have to take my car to the shop because I
Yeah.
need my car to go to work.
Yeah.
And it's
Or being connected to, like when we were talking about, and I won't go too much further than this, but when we were talking about the mark, right? About the mark and being and the image and all of that other stuff. Like, how can you really fully be free? You were talking about this, and so that scripture reminded me of that concept. Like, let us leave here so that we can go do what Abba is asking us to do, so that we can obey. I think it even says, right? So that we can obey and give our sacrifices to our God. And because inside Egypt they can't do that, because it would be offensive to them, because it's an abomination to theirs. Like the Israelites sacrifice, that sacrifice in the Egyptians' eyes is an abomination. So whatever we want to offer our God inside this Egypt that we're in will be an abomination to these people that we're under bondage for. I just was trying to see that, like all the little parallels and stuff. It's just interesting.
Every time I read this verse 6, it makes me think of today and how it's not much different. I mean, what is bondage, and what are they crying out to get away from? It's to me, it's the same thing we are today. We don't actually own anything. Everything we have is debt, or you got property taxes your whole life, so you don't own your property. If you don't pay them, your property's gone. Same thing goes with your car. Same thing goes with your house. On and on. And it's like, I know me personally, I'd love to be able to get away from all that and and have that bondage of Egypt go away. But it just verse reminds me very much of today.
I know one of the biggest freedoms that I felt was when I sold my condo. Getting out from under that mortgage. Yeah, I still have rent to pay and everything like that, but there's a lot of freedom in that.
Yeah, a mortgage is like a home loan, a car loan, whatever it is. Any type of credit usury loan is so burdensome. It weighs heavy on us.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, Matt, I agree.
Everybody
I would
wonders
love
that.
to own some property somewhere, but you're absolutely right. You don't pay property taxes, they'll come take it.
Yep.
Yeah, we can't own anything. We don't own anything.
Mm-mm.
If we're not in debt, okay, that's not true. Like, I mean, I own my socks, but I think that if you buy something and don't go into debt, like don't get credit cards, don't get loans, and make sure that you pay your power bill, then you can own like a trailer and your car, right? You could do that. And then nothing would happen to you necessarily in the context of nothing would happen to you. Listen to that. That's all
I
that.
almost just said you can own a tent.
Well, but they do if you don't.
What were
pay
they
your
living
car
in?
tax.
Yeah.
If you don't pay
Well,
your car tax,
Yeah.
you don't pay on your car.
the minute you register your car, you're actually telling them you no longer own it.
Yeah. That's why, like, we should be driving around with, I don't know, like like the idea back then, no usury and no borrowing, right? Like the poor borrow. So a bunch of us people have mansions but we're poor. We're not really rich, we're poor. We don't own anything.
Right. Well, if you look at it like, right, you have that debt line, right, where everything
Yes.
below
Sorry.
it is red ink and everything above that is black ink. So you have people living in the red. And if you look at it, the people, if they have a $1 million house that they owe $700,000 in red on, and cars that they're in the red on, but you own, a beater, 1985 jalopy and have a house that's paid for, you're in reality much wealthier by their standards
Yeah.
than lots of other people.
Jasmine, when you said show me
Yeah.
ride horses, my kid actually, like my youngest kid, because we've had them in riding lessons and stuff like that. And we live about 16 kilometers out into the country from this little town that we live close by. She goes, you know what, if we had horses, would it be okay if we just take the horses to the store? Like, yeah, like, is there a law against it? I don't think so, but yeah, I mean, it'd be a lot cheaper.
Actually, some places there is a law against it.
Probably, I'm sure there is, yeah.
You
You have
know,
to clean them up. There's
Not
still
in
laws.
cave free. Cave free.
I think
Out in the
there's
you can ride your horse into town and yeah.
well, all you United Kingdom folks that are with us today, isn't there a law there that landowners can't prevent the commoners from traversing their land for the most part? I mean, there's like a right of free passage there. You can walk across anybody's land.
Really?
Something like that. I know
Well, I
I'm
mean, there's skidoers going over across this property all the time, and it's not their land.
skidoers. Get off my land, you crazy skidoers.
well, there's still a
That sounds
law.
really Canadian. I'm sorry.
All right.
I have all my teeth. I'm not that far north. But Simone said something earlier. Hang on a second. Simone said something. Hang on. Oh wait, no. More. Sorry.
Huh?
That why serving money is the root to all evil, because you put your trust in the wealth of God. When money fails, you have to trust the Lord fully. It's easy to serve money and not realize. And then say, okay, yes, there's Simone's too, like Romans 13:8. Let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt of love for one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. So that sums up everything that we're talking about, right? Like, we're not supposed to owe anything.
Aye.
Right.
The end. Sorry. I was just trying to not forget that, because those were some good points.
So verse 12 in this, and Moses spake before the Lord, saying, Behold, the children of Israel have not hearkened unto me. The children of Israel aren't even listening to Moses. How then shall Pharaoh hear me, who am of uncircumcised lips? So at this point, here, if we go through verses 13 through 25, I don't know. I have this still have this implanted Hollywood vision of Exodus, right? Of the 10 Commandments. Let my people go. All right. Anyways,
I love that movie. That was a great movie.
well, look
Sure,
at
though.
verses 13 through 25. Our Father's telling Moses to build a union of leaders right here. It wasn't just Moses and Aaron. This was all the tribal leaders going up to Pharaoh and saying, we're done. you need to let us go. And I mean, it's kind of like when you take the leader, you use the name of a leader of a nation, right, as representing that entire nation, right? Well, Trump told Mexico. Well, no, Trump didn't. Trump had a whole bunch of other people that represented the United States at a meeting with a whole bunch of people that represented Mexico. Los Estados de Mexico. Estados Unidos de Mexico.
What'd you call me?
What?
I know you are, but what am I?
Exactly.
Anyways. See, it's so much nicer not being in Catholic school when you get whacked with a yardstick for saying something. Hi, Jimmy's daughter and son. Okay, since Gwen's asleep at the wheel now.
No. I
No,
typed
no.
hello earlier before you
No.
even noticed. Oh yeah, I
No.
did.
No.
Yes, I
You
did.
say it out loud.
I don't need to say it out loud.
Rubber your glue bounces
You
up.
can win them over without a word.
Okay. Anyways,
Y'all quit fighting.
You can put them on opposite sides of the screen.
Could you imagine? Like, we'd probably be, well, no, we wouldn't be really that nice to each other on face to face. Maybe we would for a little bit, but
I thought it was interesting that Moses was like, "How is Pharaoh going to listen to me when Israel isn't even listening to me?"
I thought that too.
Yeah, and he keeps saying I'm uncircumcised lips. Like, how many times does he say that?
oh, come on, we can all relate with that. Like, he's never done it before.
public speaking.
Well, he's never he's been a spoiled brat, right? Assuming. Like, he's had everything handed to him. And then one day he screws up and everything's taken away. And now he's been dealing with stinky sheep for X amount of years. And that ultimately is a very lonely life. Like, a shepherd's life is a very lonely, secluded life. So yes, he had a wife and yes, he had children, but to be a shepherd, you're lonely. You know, like, you have to be patient and all of these other things, but like, it's now let's put you in front of people that'll eat you alive. Like, it's intimidating. Like, it's really intimidating. And imagine having to go to a, you know.
Well, I was
Nothing-
thinking when you were saying that, Gwen, I was thinking about what if Abba called one of us to go stand before Congress?
I'd make sure that I'd wear a diaper.
President Trump. I mean, yeah, think about that. That would
Yeah.
not, those people don't care.
They don't care.
They do not care what you have to say, and you're basically talking to a wall. And so, yeah, you're right.
And let's call the Israelites, you know, the modern Christian church right now. They're like remote. They're probably a little bit familiar with their God, but God has been so distant, right, in their lifestyle, right, because they're in Egypt. But they're familiar with Him. So now we're going to go in front of these people that are familiar with God and people that hate God but love other gods, and say, excuse me, let me take all of these millions of people and all of our kids and all of our. So,
Well,
I
it'd
mean,
be like, the modern church has been taught prosperity. You are not, I remember being in church and hearing this, is that if you do not have wealth, if you do not have health, then you do not have faith. Your faith is lacking. So you've got these people that are walking around with wealth, and then you've got somebody that walks in like Moses and says, oh, by the way, you're going to leave all that behind, and we're going to wander around out in the wilderness.
right.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you have Jesus say it's harder for a rich man to get in heaven than camel through an eye of a needle. And the disciples literally were like, wow, this is a hard saying. And is anyone going to heaven? Or eternal, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I think we don't realize how spiritual, like physical stuff is, or the attachment to it. By that I mean like the example you gave with selling your condo, and in different. I mentioned it before, maybe not on the live stream, but there was one time I had to get rid of everything. I didn't have a choice. I thought I was going to be homeless. I was blessed. I wasn't. But I got rid of everything because I thought that I was like a day away from sleeping in my truck. And I remember how liberating it felt, and the amount of weight that was taken off of me that I didn't even realize was there, that I was carrying around with all this stuff. And I think that that's the same burden that Jesus was talking about. He said that.
Mhm. Well, in the past 6 months, 8 months, I have gone through and gotten rid of I don't know how much stuff, thinking, okay, I'm gonna be in an RV, which is my goal. And then there was this last move. I still realized I filled up a 15-foot U-Haul, and I just looked at it and I'm like, I have still got too much stuff. I still have more than I want
Right.
to have.
Okay.
So wait. Simone said, "Do we? Oh, sorry. Don't move on." She said, "Do we have the courage and the zeal to execute the right kind of judgment?" Yeah, right there. Like, I mean, we can't even correct each other's sin and behavior with our brothers and sisters. We're too scared. Like,
Her statement continues and finishes with, to ultimately bring peace.
yeah. So we can't even confront each other. Like, your beard is too short, your beard is too long. Your hair is too short, your hair is too long. Stop gossiping and nitpicking and point. Like, we can't even do that with each other.
Your hair's not covered.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah. In verse 27, right? Continuing on with what I was talking about, that after it names all these members of the tribes, it says, "These are they which spake to Pharaoh, king of Egypt, to bring out the children of Israel from Egypt." Right? These are that Moses and Aaron. So basically it's saying that Moses wasn't Moses alone, and Aaron wasn't Aaron alone. They had this coalition of people backing. You know, it's corny alert. It's like when the Romans are cracking down on the slave revolt, and they say, "Where has Ben-Hur?" And they all start standing up. "I am Ben-Hur." "No, I am Ben-Hur." Except we have this united front. You know, I am Moses, I am Aaron. Right? Oh, what's the modern thing? Oh, I don't even want to go there, but too late.
Go for it.
Me too.
No.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. Everybody's part of it, right? So this is really,
So it seems to me by this time they're finally listening to Moses. Before they weren't listening.
at least the leaders are.
Yeah, the leaders are. So the rest of the people have to get along.
Right.
Come on, people.
Okay, let's go to 7. Siete. Capítulo 7.
holy smokes.
I like how in 7 he's like, let my people go so that they can serve me in the wilderness.
And where are you? Verse what?
That would have been. I never put the verses down. I literally just write the.
It is though, because
Is it chapter 4?
Remember when we did that study on wilderness, and it's
Yes.
lonely place, loneliness, lonely place.
Or no, it's all wilderness. Also means the place where it speaks, or the place that speaks, or there. That's where you're spoken to, is in the wilderness, or something like that. I did a word study on that a couple years ago.
Well, then how many of us talk about being lonely? we're alone. A lot of us are alone. Some
Yep.
don't have spouses. Some of us don't have kids, or we're separated from our families because of our decisions and our walk.
Right.
And
But
it's
even
very
in the
lonely.
same household,
Huh?
you can be totally alone. I mean, look at all the people we have that have a part of their testimony that says, you know, I came to this belief, but my spouse would have none of it. My children would have none of it. My parents would have none of it.
Oh, Simone, you're my new best friend. Yes. I knew it was right.
Well, and sometimes I think that I look at my situation. I've lost all my immediate family, and some of it very quickly. And I look back on that, and I think about that from a connection standpoint. It would be very difficult for me to separate from them and to do what God was calling me to do. So they're gone. So it makes it, even though it's lonely, it makes it easier.
Yep, exactly.
So wow.
I was thinking about that. I have an opinion about that. Because you have Moses.
Surprise! I'm just giving you grief.
You should, because it's just an opinion. You can annihilate it. But like, I think that because Moses is writing this book, right? You have this guy writing this book. And I think it's more like, yeah, he hardened his heart, but each time he hardened his heart, but he wants them to go through that process because he has no mercy on Pharaoh, because he wants to just, let Pharaoh burn in the lake of fire. Or my girls and I were talking about this the other day, because my youngest was asking about Pharaoh and his heart and all this other stuff, because we were reading through those scriptures. And then I was saying, you know what, Alvin knows the end from the beginning. I think he knows those that are going to be his and those that are not going to be his. And I think he knew from the beginning that Pharaoh was not going to be his. So does that, like, we played this out for years, and many of us do, like, did he literally harden his heart? Or did he allow his heart just to be what it is already and let it transpire? And then we use the terminology of he hardened his heart, right? So you know what I mean? Like, I don't think necessarily that Abba went into his heart, hardened it, because then we have all these other people, like these other evil people. Did he harden their heart too? No, they were wicked from the beginning. In the womb, you can be wicked, right? Like,
I think, because I was thinking about this as we were reading it, that when it says that he hardened his heart, it's all right. So if the fear of the Lord is the beginning of all wisdom, like him just not allowing him to understand what it is, or blaming it. I mean, we don't see that. So this is, again, I don't want to call it a guess, but where I see these plagues going on, and he keeps telling Moses, all right, you could go, and then the plague is relieved, and then something else happens. It's like the thought of reason. Oh, well, that was the frog god, and this one was the other god, and then making the excuse. Like, that's the hardening. That's how I see his heart being hardened. He's given the moment to choose wisdom and understanding and reverence for the Father, and then getting the sense of relief and being like, no, you're not going anywhere. And to me, that's a hardened heart. So
that was there from the beginning. Like that was there from the beginning, I think, right? Like, I think that all that, like, dude, okay, are we at the, wait, we're not at the plagues yet, right? Not yet. We're almost there. I'm trying to use restraint. Okay.
It's the first one.
But what you're saying, though, Landon, it also reveals Pharaoh's character. He's not a man of his word.
Yeah.
You know, and like both of you are saying, I think that's the heart that already existed. And so, you know, Abba just kept putting these things in front of him, and it just revealed more and more who he was. And I think we're seeing that modern day as well. We're seeing leadership, fathers revealing their character. Now you have to ask him for open eyes and for people to have their eyes open so that they can see what's before them. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, but how does it work? Like Jasmine's talking about it, right? Let's talk about it. Let's go there. Okay, so Abba knows whether or not you're going to choose to, you know, do whatever you're going to do tomorrow. Yeah, it's up to you, but he already knows that you're going to do it. Yeah, it's your choice to choose obedience or disobedience, or it's up to you to keep your mind. It's up to you to be responsible for what you know. When you know better, you do better. La, 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 right? But what about all those babies that were annihilated back in the day? Some of them were even in the womb. Okay, well, I mean, predestination there, right? Like, I think about that sometimes too. Like, is it or isn't it? But I think ultimately, if Abba knows the end from the beginning, he knows what you're going to choose. You still have a free will to choose, but he knows what you're going to choose to begin with. So I think, in just my opinion, he already knew that Pharaoh was not good. He already knew that Pharaoh's heart was deceitfully wicked. So he used his hard heart to rescue the people. He used their leadership and the oppression of that leadership to rescue the people. You know, he used that stuff. So he'll use a hard heart.
Right.
Pharaoh could choose every single time, absolutely, but Abba knew he was going to choose every single time to be deceitful.
Right. Yeah, no, I was thinking because it could be read in such a way where God made his heart hard, but if God allows us free will and he won't violate free will,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's where I was
Yeah, it's like they're tied together. They are tied together, for sure they're tied together. Yes, we're all connected. Who wants to be a hand?
Who wants to what?
Who wants to be a hand? We're all connected. Who wants to be a hand? I'd much rather be a hand than a mouth.
It's funny, nobody's ever called me a hand or a mouth. Anyways.
Yes, Jasmine.
Okay. So what plagues is it that start here?
The
The blood, the water turning to blood, all the living things, all the living creatures dying in the river. But it's not just the blood river, it's everything. All their pots, all their storage containers.
Do you ever wonder if everything was already filled with blood? Like, were these magicians just piggybacking off theirs? Like, if everything was already, pots and fountains and rivers and ponds were already filled with blood, what was left that wasn't touched with blood that the magicians were able to turn to blood?
That's a good question.
Well, I did say they dug
So
for water. I mean, they had to get water from somewhere to just live past the third day, right?
Well, it says
Or they were just piggybacking, just like the snakes, right? Like, I think, like, you know, Moses, the rod was a snake before theirs was a snake. It's like they almost had to use doesn't that sound like the way the enemy works? You can't think of anything new. He has to use what Abba's already created and piggyback off that and pervert it. So those snakes, he created snakes, Abba made snakes, but those snakes were piggybacking off of the snake that Moses already threw to the ground. And same with the blood. Like, I was just thinking about that. Like, there's just no way that they could conjure up a snake from thin air. There's just no way. Because the enemy is not a creator.
Right.
Satan is not a creator of life. And snakes are a lot more.
I don't believe that they were created. I do believe, however, though, there were either princes or principalities, powers,
Okay.
right here from the spiritual realm that were fallen, what we would call a fallen son of God, right? An entity that was at that time being worshipped, gave these magicians a very real spiritual power.
Mhm. They still do it today.
They still do it today. I mean,
Right.
the things that they do, you know, and I think some of us have studied into that. They make a deal with this being. You know, let me do these
Sure.
amazing things for this praise and glory to come from mankind, to be in awe at how wonderful I am. But at some point, they have to give their life for it.
Why couldn't they summon lice? Yes, good question, Chance.
Why
And
doesn't
because every one of these plagues represented one of the gods that they were worshiping as well.
right?
So that's like, you know, Elohim's like going, poking their eyes. I love it.
Chance was saying, like, why couldn't
Well,
why
that
couldn't
kind
they
of
summon lice?
deception that kind of deception is going to return with the Antichrist at the end. I mean, like Jonathan said, it already is here, but you know, there's going to be a miracle happen.
Right.
There are going to be things that are going to happen that are going to cause people, even, you know, our modern day churches, that they're going to go follow that person. They're going to go follow those people because, oh my gosh, they're doing miracles.
Yep.
Lying signs and wonders.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chance, I see that point, but why couldn't they summon the lice then?
Millie answered that just below that.
Because who did what?
Millie just answered it. They wouldn't chance because it defiled them and they couldn't do their rituals.
Well, I think too, whatever spirits they were in contact with, giving them the power to make their staff appear as a serpent, didn't have authority over lice, or didn't have authority over dust. They're set rigidly in this principality, in this power, and can't extend beyond that, right? Just like we see in the end times with
It only goes so far.
what?
It only goes so far.
Right, just like we see in the end times, the river Euphrates has to be dried up in order for the kings of the east to be able to cross that, these spiritual powers to be able to cross that river.
Can't talk about. At least not
Do you
that.
think that's the job of the restrainer?
Some, yeah, somewhat.
And all of these plagues affected the Israelites up until the lice. Like they experienced all that stuff except for the lice and then onward, right?
Right?
So the frogs, the blood, all the fish dying, they experienced all of that stuff.
Right. And see, and this goes also to talking about the authority. It goes to somewhere in a different translation, the way it is worded, you know, I am Yah, your God. You shall see that I am your gods, plural. In other words, saying, you shall see that what you're worshiping as a god wasn't really what had that power. It was me that had that power. Right? All power. We just covered that. We were just talking about that a little while ago. Yep, exactly, Margaret. But gods. I don't know. It just sounds funny. Okay. All right. Let's go to chapter 8 of Exodus, the book we're reading. And this kind of goes with what I was saying earlier, too. verse 4, and the frog shall come upon both on thee and upon thy people and upon all thy servants. So not only your people, but the servants also,
Excuse me.
right? But then later in the chapter, we have the separation,
Mm-hmm.
which was what? The lice that we were
Yeah.
talking.
I have like something from 15 on that sounds just like us or the Israelites. So in verse 15 it says, "But Pharaoh saw that there was respite. He hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them, as Yahuwah had said." That sounds familiar. As soon as we start getting our way and we get respite, we start going, "Oh, you brought us out here to kill us, that we're all gonna die."
Well, but there's also the pleading and promising, right? Like the joke about the
Yes.
certain individual driving around the mall parking lot that's totally full, and he says, "Oh, please, Lord, if you give me a parking spot, I promise I'll go to mass every day for the rest of my life." And then right in front of the doors, someone backs out and like, "Never mind, Lord, I see one just opened up."
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we
Or
all
CS
remember those days. Please, just let me get
that
this
makes me
job, or let me get this car, or let me get,
that makes me think of what C.S. Lewis would say in Screwtape Letters. He would say, he'd be like, the enemy would listen, like Wormwood would listen, and he'd be like, "Okay, I want you in mass. I'll meet you there." Let's get him that parking spot so that he'll go to mass. It's not necessarily Abba that wants you to go to mass. It might be the enemy.
right.
So
Right.
that he can meet you there. Anyways,
So, yeah, Margaret, dung beetles in the color black were holy to the Egyptians. That's true. And when we get to the darkness, I don't think that the dark necessarily bothered them, but the darkness that they felt, that they can feel, that's something that's icky. Totally different.
oh my gosh.
What? Are your dogs barking?
Caillou.
She's not going to listen to me anyway, and I'm yelling at her.
Yeah.
She's doing her job. She's barking at coyotes.
Yeah.
Property clear.
Leave her be.
Well, you know what? She also has started to like barking and chasing after the big grader that's constantly grading the roads.
Oh,
She's
Yeah.
still protecting her property from the big
The big yellow monster.
big beast.
Right.
Uncle Obvious. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Oh, I have no idea. I never heard that before.
What
But-
was that? I can't see it.
Uncle Obvious is saying C.S. Lewis was a.
Rosicrucian.
Yeah, he was
Thank
not
you.
a Christian.
And Mason.
And a Mason.
Mason.
But that
He was part of
book
the
is-
Inklings. He was part of the Inklings group. There were several of them. He wasn't a Christian.
well, I don't think that he was, but his thinking in that book was ridiculous. Was super accurate when you want to get into the mind of the enemy.
Hmm.
You want to understand the enemy's mind, and our judgment always seems to think that it has to look all squeaky clean for it not to be evil, but it can look squeaky clean and still be evil. So it was, pardon?
It's the creepy kind of evil, like that.
Yeah, so it was just really good perspective on the enemy's tactics on how he manipulates the mind of people that don't even know it.
Right.
Well, if he's writing from that perspective, he's probably revealing a little bit of truth about his side.
Sure, yeah. Yes, Tolkien, I know. J.R. Tolkien was, yes. And
He was part
open,
of the Inklings.
yeah.
So what about this? Because they caused the separation after the lice, right?
Okay.
The plagues.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which would be worse, having lice or having flies?
Flies.
Mm-hmm.
Mice.
Nice.
Depends if they're horse flies.
Right. Yeah, good
Horse
point.
flies
Yeah,
are
if they're
evil.
flies, then really.
Both.
That's a hard one. That's a
Because
hard
if I had to diatomaceous earth, we could easily get rid of the lice, but I don't know if we could get rid of the flies.
to
We
think about.
could.
Flies are so irritating.
And you know where they come from.
They bring germs. I mean, flies will go land on a cow patty and then come land on your food.
Oh, flies are born in the cow patty, so
Yeah.
ugh.
Yeah.
But cow patties are just fine. They're just grass. They are. They're just grass.
Yeah, from grass-fed cows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Smarty Pants. Kerosene takes care of lice. Okay, yeah, okay. I'm just thinking pouring
Cow
kerosene on
pie
you.
pie.
Flies
Can have
are
a cow pie pie.
Y'all remind me of the barbecue I went to. And I went back to my second plate of beans. And I saw the larva in the beans after I pulled
Oh
up.
no!
Hey,
Mm.
thanks, Landon.
You're
That's
welcome.
disgusting.
I was the one
That's
that
disgusting.
Frogs.
That's disgusting.
I
Okay,
agree.
family, I have to go get ready for something that's about to happen here soon. So,
Hi, Gwen.
Okay, thank you, Gwen.
bless you all.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so the 5 cool kids are left. Oh boy, watch, she's going to try to come back on.
I heard that.
All right.
Actually, my reception just got better.
No interference from Canada. Let's see. Chapter 9. Let's go up there. Anybody got notes for 9? The thing I'm getting stuck on today is it's talking about keeps talking about the servants of Pharaoh, but which brings me back to that in Genesis when all the Egyptians were also already in service to Pharaoh.
Well, what I have from 9 is stuff that I have had previously that I've highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
And just a reminder that Abba's done this the whole time. In 4, it says that Yahweh shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt. There shall none die, and all that is the children of Israel. And so, he has a protection of his children when these plagues are coming. And so, I think that helps us remember if we are in spiritual Egypt right now, those who are following him, could be protected while everything else is being judged or being dealt with. Possibly.
Well, the plagues are in Exodus are so similar to Revelation, and it's like as it was before, so it will be again.
That's because Yah is a Yah of patterns. He does it the same way every time.
Mm-hmm.
And the beginning is, you can look at the beginning and then look at the end and you're like, wow, because it's all like he uses the same types of judgments and stuff to get people's attention. We already had the locusts.
Yeah.
There was a study that was done by Arnold Murray that was specifically studying if you can't remember the title of the study, but it was specifically studying how Abba, our Father, uses the earth to bring forth his judgment. On this we have the creatures out of the earth, right? So lice and flies and dust, darkness. Very interesting. But this went deeper into, the earthquakes and the floods and things like that. And it's just real interesting because I found it real interesting because after doing that study, looks like where the biggest settlements of people who are anti-Christ, anti-God, are concentrated together are on these places that are susceptible to flooding, susceptible to earthquake, susceptible to other natural disasters like that. All while flaunting their flag and saying, can't punish us anymore. You promised. Well, I said I wouldn't punish you like that. It's coming. All right. Anyway.
Well, and he said he wouldn't flood the earth, the entire earth. He didn't say he wouldn't send a flood. He just said, I won't send it over the entire earth.
Right. All right. Keeps on raining. The levee's going to break.
Yep.
It did.
I was waiting for that from Senor New Orleans. Nolans. Okay. Excuse me. What about flaming hail? What's up with that?
See, I think that's like usually when it hails, there's a thunderstorm. To me, it's lightning causing fire, but I don't know. I've seen lightning cause fire out in Arizona many times.
Mm-hmm.
So it happens.
That's interesting. Hail without rain, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably more like napalm.
Maybe.
And it talks about it in Enoch about how it's going to rain fire from the sky.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that would be a very interesting happening to see hail hit hail coming down encased in rain or encased in fire. Like a fireball. It's a fireball, but it's got ice in it.
The sulfur from around the area of Sodom and Gomorrah kind of burns like napalm, though. Michael Rood went there doing a documentary, and he took some back to his hotel in somewhere in Jerusalem, and he was trying to show the other people that he was with, and he set it on fire inside the hotel to show them. But he didn't know how toxic that the fumes were, and they had to evacuate the building and all that. He was using that as an example of God's mercy, because instead of burning to death or suffering a horrible thing, the fumes from this little bitty piece of sulfur that did as you lit it on fire, it sort of melts and turns liquidish. But he was saying the fumes from it are so toxic they knock you out in a matter of moments. And so it was showing God's mercy, in that it would have put them to sleep before they suffered a horrible.
Before they felt the burning to death.
Yes, sir.
One thing about that with house fires, a lot of times people die of the fumes
Asphyxiation.
long before the fire. So
Right.
I didn't know that, though. That's interesting.
Yeah.
We got anything else from 9?
What's that?
Yeah. No, what? Go ahead.
I was talking about his dogs. I think they wanted to add.
They're trying to play.
You got 2 heads, Landon. Okay. Most people that live close to the water have a parrot on their shoulder.
Right. We've got wild parakeets in New Orleans. There's like a certain section of the city that they might not be parakeets. It's little green tropical birds. They're beautiful, but they're just wild.
We have lovebirds that are wild all over the place here. They just got out and started breeding, and they get along great. Parakeets and cockatiels and
Yeah. Yep. You
whole
see
nine.
them, or I do. Yep. We're what? Hour and a half away from each other
Yeah.
if we don't have to deal with the rush hour.
Oh, I hate rush hour. I don't know how people do it.
Okay, chapter 10.
I got down to the locusts and how right now in Africa there's like a huge locust plague. And is that just coincidence?
It makes you wonder: is that a run of the mill? Is that a run of the mill locust swarm, or a cyclical thing, or is this a punishment because of the way certain things have been going on there? Right, like we have people of a different faith that are imposing their belief system upon others, and yet then all of a sudden now they get this huge locust swarm. And the same could be said for pestilence, right? Regardless of what the source of the pestilence was, look where it's affecting.
Well, I think it could possibly be. I think those locust swarms are cyclical, but like like farming, but some of those some of those swarms could be because of improper growing and, improper farming practices. But like you've said before, Jonathan, just because it's man created doesn't mean.
Because we're saying it's man created, right?
Doesn't mean that God was not using it.
Right. Well, what did he say? I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. And then Pharaoh hardened his own heart.
Right.
Well, what's to say back then they weren't like, oh, there's a scientific explanation for all these plagues.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of the way they made it look in the movie, The Ten Commandments, right? They said, oh, see, this was caused by something upriver. I forget what it was.
Or that their
Monoxide.
magicians
It's an
caused
algae bloom.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yep, they had explanation for all of it.
Yeah. Right. Even though, like, that's what I was saying in that one study series, right? We have all these news reports about vast swaths of the oceans being devoid of any life anymore. And they have all these fish dying. Well, Scripture told us that a third of everything, or everything eventually in the sea, is going to die. So, well, just because we attach a scientific label on it, or we know what poison it was, does that mean it was not coming forward as Abba said, as our Father said?
Same thing with the weather manipulation.
With the weather. Right? And, that goes to my whole point on that study series is, if you trace back the meaning of the name, all the words linked to blasphemy, when it says this word, which comes from this word, which comes from this word, which comes from this word, you build a phrase that is cursing man in such a way as to curse God and take God out of the situation. And, well, man is the image of God. So first off, we're cursing the image of God, and then we are removing God from the equation, right? It is, man polluted earth, so man has to clean it up.
Right.
Man invented this chemical and is using it, and it's causing cancer, so man has to heal the cancer. I mean, just no matter what, it's always remove. Their solution is to always remove God out, look to man.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the meanings of 666 is you have 6 as the number of man, but when you replicate it, when you triplicate any number, that's raising it to a deity, to a godhood.
When something I ran across just recently, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly what it was. It's some sort of chemical or environmental issue that man has created, but there is a bug or an insect
Oh,
that
plastic.
actually affects it.
It was plastic.
Was it plastic? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. What is it? The larva for a carpet beetle or something like that?
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't remember what it was. I just
And they found out. Oh no. The something like a beeswax wasp or something. So the larva was created to eat beeswax, but they now discovered it can process most plastic.
They have some locusts that will eat warts in Great Britain. I saw something where these people were going to buy locusts, and they would, if they had like a wart on their finger, it'd chew it off. Wart be gone.
I'll stick to the oregano oil. Thank you.
Yeah, yes,
Right.
much nicer smelling. Weird.
But thanks for the info, Landon.
Just tape one onto your thumb. Go to work with it on there. What's that?
This is Pete.
So, just my follow-up thought to that, Jonathan, is what you were saying. Just because man creates it doesn't mean that Abba doesn't have something to deal with it, to take care of it.
Yep.
We need to give him the glory for his creation.
Yep.
Well, I find it very interesting in 1020. No, I'm sorry, 920. That the servants of Pharaoh's, some of these people were starting to believe what's coming out of Moses' mouth because they're like, "Oh, we better bring our cows in," you know.
Well, and probably, Lynn, aren't those probably some of the same people that left
Yeah.
with the Israelites?
Yeah.
When they became
Yes.
part of sojourners.
Yeah.
in Israel, going, hey, this guy's the truth. I mean, he's got a God that's more powerful than anything that we've served, so we're going to go with him.
Yep. We're going to see it real soon.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
gonna be reading that in the next lesson or two, the next reading or two.
Yeah, pretty cool.
We have cicada here too, Margaret. 17-year cicada every year. Explain that.
7 years cicada.
Oh, 7-year. Okay.
They
Either way, explain that every year. Every year we get a 7-year cicada.
Yeah.
because it's the females that stay in the ground, or I get one of them only comes up every so many years to mate, but the other party just kind of hangs out.
I don't know. I haven't been checking which ones are males and females. I just know the males are noisy.
Yeah, that's
Little tuxedos.
Ugh. All I know is I used to think that the cicada skins that were stuck to all the tree barks or rocks or wherever you found them looked an awful lot like pork rinds.
Mhm.
They do. You remember that year in the 70s, I think it was? We were kind of young, and there were so many of them. They literally covered the trees like a carpet. It was so wild.
No. Well, I thought it's funny because you get people that aren't from the desert here, and they're in the summer, and we tune it out, right? And you have people walking around going, "What's that noise? What's that noise?" And it's like, I don't know. What are you talking about? I don't hear anything.
Or Jonathan, I think it's raining under this tree.
Oh, that's harsh, Jasmine. Why would you say that?
Oh, my goodness.
that it's funny though, because the cicada here sound different than cicada elsewhere. And when we drove back to Kentucky for my niece's wedding, we were driving through Nashville, and I kept rolling the window down. It was like, is my fan belt squeaking?
What's that buzzing?
And I'm listening, and it's like, well, sometimes it's louder and sometimes it isn't. Then when we stopped, you could hear them in the trees. But then after we got out of that area and got into the country again, my fan belt pulley was squeaking. So didn't help. Waxworm. Thank you, Margaret.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep. It's a waxworm. Eating all the plastic. And that's something too. There is for anything that we have corrupted. I don't want to say that we've corrupted, that we have, well, I guess corrupted. I don't want to say corrupted, destroyed.
Yeah, there you go.
There is something in our Father's creation that can fix it.
Yep.
Or make the mess go away.
Because he knew. He
You
knew
know,
how
it's
floppy it would be. Mhm.
yeah, it's so much. It points out, or it confirms so strongly that he has everything under control.
He does.
You ever been out to a trash dump, like where they're just piling and piling trash like a mountain?
Like
And
a
you-
landfill.
Yeah, yep. You literally have to drive up them, like way up. It's like you're on a mountain, and then you realize that was all trash, and now it's all dirt, and it doesn't take very long at all. Like a couple of years, and it's all back into dirt.
Well, Michigan did it right. They started putting lime on their trash heaps, and now they build parks and stuff on top of it.
Yeah.
Because all the trash is taken care of by the lime. So that's cool. It's like, why can't we all do that?
Probably some of the mobsters.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, literally, it keeps the smell down. People can live there and not have to worry about it. The flies are not a problem, and it's smart.
Well, it's funny because when I worked in corrections, it was way out of town, and it was past the city landfill, and then of course there was a sewage treatment plant just for the prison as well, and it didn't smell too good. And we used to always say, well, they put up a development, a neighborhood, and we said, nobody's going to buy those houses. Who wants to live next to a sewage treatment plant in a landfill, a dump? And then lo and behold, now it's all totally surrounded everywhere. I mean, there's developments all over the place out there.
Well, it doesn't smell as bad as a paper mill.
No,
Well, the
pretty bad.
yeast factory.
Goodness.
Go drive by the yeast factory and tell me how you like that one.
The yeast.
It does taste-
They're horrible. I mean, I've never smelled anything so hideous than the yeast factory. So gross.
I don't know. Stockyards are right up there.
I like that smell.
Paper mills are worse than stockyards.
Yeah, paper mills are nasty.
Oh, I bet they are.
With the
It's
salt,
horrible.
because
And
they
then
use
the wind
sulfuric
carries-
acid to break down the wood pulp.
And then the wind
And they don't even
carries
have to do that. They could use, if they use the husk from hemp,
All you really need to do,
water soluble.
there's like a mixture ratio for compost, and you just need a certain amount of brown to green matter, and it just naturally breaks down how it should. It's basically exactly what would happen in a forest with dying leaves and a couple green plants dying here and there.
Yep.
All right. Anybody else have anything important to announce? Anybody in chat got anything important? Talk to me.
I had down that the darkness that was felt. It was 3 days, and then it said that Israel had lights in their dwellings.
Yes, in Goshen. How did that happen?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just
I think- Jonathan and I talked about this before, is that darkness that can be felt, that it's so dark. And then if you've got powers and principalities that are over something like Egypt, there's something in that darkness.
Yep.
And that's creepy feeling.
Well, if you've
Yes.
ever,
Gross darkness.
yeah, if you've ever gone into a non-commercialized cave, it's kind of like that. When you get in there and you shut your light off and stuff, it's
Yeah.
feels like a presence. It's going to be an orc jumping out or something. Yeah, I was talking with somebody who was in Los Angeles when that real big earthquake they had back in, I think, the 90s happened, and it was at night, and all the power went out, and then because the earth was shaking, it raised big old huge giant clouds of earth dust, so you couldn't see any stars, no moon or anything. And so they said they like felt their way out of their apartment and then were able to find the street, and then were just walking, kind of bounded by the curbs of the road on either side. And you can hear voices and stuff in the darkness, which are other people, trying to get to whatever, emergency location they're going to get to where there's water and stuff. And just said it was really creepy.
Well, and I'm wondering, people talk about Sheol, the dark side of Sheol, being darkness. It's just darkness. And, that maybe that's what it is that creepy, because don't the demons talk to Jesus about that?
Mhm.
Isn't there a place where they discuss that? And it's like, I guess we would call it like a black hole type thing where there's just nothing.
I would like to get Remy on to talk about her experience, but I'm not sure if she has it on her channel or not, which is Yahushua Messiah. Remy,
Okay.
she's from here also, her and her husband Sean, but she's got an amazing testimony of going through that. It'd be really good I think everyone should listen to it.
Yeah, I have to check that out. There's a few things that come to mind, and I don't know if I'm talking about the same thing with darkness, but I think back to where it says both death and Hades will be thrown into the lake of fire.
Yep.
And I think that death it's a thing, like things die, but I also believe that it's sort of a place. Because of some of the experiences that I had when I wasn't living for God, and taking things, trying to cope with life or whatever. There were some events where cell phone signal would just drop. My lighter wouldn't work. I was a smoker at the time, and I couldn't do anything to get this brand new lighter to work. And I could feel that presence of something evil. And some of the other people that were in my life at the time knew that it was there too, but they were responding positively to it as if it was a good thing. And I don't know what to call that, but I think about how the air changes and it's thicker and it's a little bit harder to breathe, and not being able to call out anywhere, and a lighter not working, or just your battery dropping really low. I don't know. It's a strange thing, but I think that was right on the cusp of a veil that God has put up for our protection, and I was violating. I wasn't living for Christ, and it was as if through sin I was thinning that to myself. So
Well,
that maybe. Go ahead.
No, Well, it was something I watched about a week ago, and it was a pastor on another channel who shared his testimony, and he talked about something like that, and where he talked about that he got really drunk one night, and then somebody passed around some drugs, and he was in a car, and then all of a sudden he was in the car.
Oh, that was
Ran out and-
Sean, I think.
Yeah, and the father allowed him to go into a different place, and there was a dark entity. He talked about it being dark, and then there was an entity with him that actually followed him, attached to him for a large portion of his life. And he talked about something like that he would just, it was just this weird feeling of darkness.
Yeah, that's weird that I forgot that he was saying that. I believe he said it was leaving him towards the end. That God wouldn't leave him alone about with leading him, but he was describing it as a dark figure. And I've seen things like that before as well. But I don't know if that's dark. What from my experience, I've seen just some sort of wicked entities.
I have a interesting story with that too. My dad said he was waking up from just a nap one day on the couch, and he said he saw my older brother just walking up the staircase. And he said through just waking up, he saw this entity like around him, like oppressing him, and it said it was what he thought was like a demon.
You look outside?
And he described it, said it was like, it almost reminded me of like a movie where he said it had like these like strips of strings, like clothing coming down, and that it was just tormenting him. I thought that's pretty crazy.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let everybody go because we're on a time allowance. So everybody, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you very much, Matt and Lynn and Dee and Landon and Gwen. Anybody else? Oh, everybody in chat. Thank you very much. Very glad you joined us today. Awesome. We'll be back to read more because this is getting good. Everybody's putting everything together. We're going to have a real nice grasp of everything as we're seeing it, as we're getting closer to go time. So excellent. Love you all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.